What looks easy peasy lemon squeezy, but is actually difficult lemon difficult. Story 1, maintaining friendships from high school college after you graduate. People get so busy with work and starting their own families that friendships get put on the back burner. You stop talking to someone for a few months, then it suddenly hits you that you're no longer friends with the person. Story 2, beekeeping. You see videos of these old dudes in their veils and beekeeping suits, and it makes it seem so relaxing and easy. Turns out that bees aren't so good at finding enough food on their own, and they can get sick really easy, and in the winter they can mold. Have you ever seen moldy bees? Sometimes they're not even dead. It's still worth it though. Edit, thank you so much, fellow beekeepers. I didn't have time to answer a lot of the questions, and in looking through the questions, I saw a wonderful, beautiful community bringing awareness and knowledge. Also, obligatory thank you for the gold. I'm glad my plight with bees has garnered so much attention, and I really appreciate the insightful knowledge that is being shared here. Story 3, I use a wheelchair, and people usually don't believe me when I say that getting around can be difficult because many of them think that pushing a wheelchair is easy. They literally tell me this. The thing is, when you use a wheelchair all day, and it is basically your only means of transportation, it looks more natural. This becomes a problem when I point out accessibility problems. They often don't believe me because they see how I can navigate and assume that it's easy just because I make it look easy. Story 4, you Juve covers. You hard. Edit, holy crap. I thought it was just me that had lifelong problems with them. RIP inbox and massive thank for the gold and silver finding the person I always saw myself falling in love with. Story 5, flying remote controlled helicopters. It looks so effortless when watching seasoned flyers, but in reality, it's like balancing a marble on an upturned bowl. Story 6, finding a career you'll want to go to every day that won't crush your soul. Remember when you were young and teachers told you that you could be whatever you wanted to be? Yeah, not so realistic when you want to pay bills and maybe have a little beer money too. I didn't go to college and struggle with the thought of not being able to have a lateral career move without a degree. But then I see my friends absolutely floundering with their student loan payments and think maybe I don't have it so bad after all. Story 7, a basic physical exam at the doctor. Looks like a simple look at the throat, listen to the chest, yup, they have a heart all right. When in actuality, doctors spend thousands of hours practicing it, so that when you come in with a murmur or funny-looking kid syndrome, they can recognize it immediately. And yes, there are entire class sections on how to respectfully ask your patient to turn their head and cough as you push on there they're looking for hernias. Story 8, folding fitted sheets. I've watched instructional videos that make it look so easy, but I always just end up with a crumpled up mess, and that's how it gets put away. Story 9, street names. Everyone thinks it's great fun and likes to offer suggestions, but every tree, lake, and other natural feature has at least a dozen variations which you can't repeat for emergency service reasons. And you get cities which want a street name change anytime the road changes direction, regardless of a logical breakpoint like an intersection. Story 10, being in your 20s. As a clueless kid, I thought by now I'd have everything figured out in my life on track. I'm still clueless, but now I also have depression. Story 11, committing suicide. Looks easy, but when the time comes, it can be very hard to commit to it. Then you spiral further down the rabbit hole thinking so you can't even kill yourself. True story, edit, Christ on a bike. Didn't expect such a turnout. I'd like to thank those that gave and all of you sharing bits of yourselves. It's very sad to see so many in the same boat, a little worried it may capsize. Thank you, Reddit. Hang in or not like that. Put the rope down, you've been great. Story 12, dancing. I wouldn't say it looks easy, but when I see people do it, they're so good at it and it flows so, well, it looks easy, but I just cannot get my body to do anything more than a bop and maybe some stupid arm moves. I'm 25 and dance like a 50-year-old at a reunion. Dancers are so delicate and make it look so easy. It's honestly amazing. It's just hilarious when I try to do literally anything and fail horribly. Story 13, hanging out with friends during that I'm not at school, but I'm still dependent on my family period where you have spare time, but have no way of getting anywhere. Story 14, golf. I feel like most people think they can just grip it and rip it and don't take into account how hard it is to have a consistently good swing with solid contact. Story 15, work. I'm a lawyer and had a client call saying she needs help with a merger. But don't worry, it's super easy peasy lemon squeezy. The project took 6 months, and I almost had a breakdown. She didn't understand why the bill was so high since it was so easy. Story 16, math. I swear to God, pieces of my soul became trapped in math work and perished when I burned them. Edit, oh my frickety frack, you guys, this is my first award and most upvoted thing ever. Thank you so much. Story 17, socializing with people. I have severe social anxiety, and even small interactions with strangers, and even some people I've known for a while are really hard for me. I don't hate people or dislike being around them, but I'm just awful at keeping conversations going or initiating them. Outgoing people make it look very easy. For me, it is not. Story 18, playing an instrument. Have played most percussion instruments, trumpet, some baritone, and was first chair tuba sousaphone for 4 years, and difficulty varies based on instrument and physical attributes. Story 19, selling panties online. I've seen a couple posts about how someone could exploit desperate dudes on Craigslist by buying women's panties, spritzing them with perfume, and then selling them online. Where it's so easy, nowadays, buyers want to see photos of a real woman in the exact pair they'll be buying, or proof in the form of being Panty Trust certified. They'll want extras or special requests for their order, plenty of fetishes to go around, and the vast majority of them will drop off the face of the earth when it comes time to actually pay. You'll have to sift through hundreds of responses to your ad. Knowing most of them will be time wasters just trying to get a little dirty talk or some photos, my advice, don't bother. Leave it to the cam girls who make some side cash off selling their panties, because there's always going to be someone willing to go a step further than you, and they'll be the one to make the sale. Story 20, pretty much anything that a professional does. They make it look easy cause it's their job. Throw a football 65 yards accurately. PSS is safe simple if you're an elite athlete. Cut open a chest cavity to fix a few coronary arteries. It's just another day at the office for a surgeon. Frame up a structural wall within a 2,000 square foot house. Just a bunch of nails is all you need. Make crowded teeth perfectly aligned. Surely it's just a matter of wearing trays 1 through 55, voila, it's all straight. In reality, each of these tasks takes someone who trained for years to visualize the problem, solve it, and execute it to the looks easy, because they practice the out of it, getting 50 karma to post my orange kitties on her cats. Story 21, programming. It's like Lego sets. Anyone can follow the instructions and make the Millennium Falcon, but it's a whole different ballgame when you're given a pile of assorted blocks and someone says, okay, now, recreate the Taj Mahal, but the client wants it to look like Big Ben. It also needs to be able to interlock with the Sphinx, the Great Wall, the Eiffel Tower, and the Maojang Temple to create a super monument. Yes, I know the Maojang Temple hasn't been designed yet. Just make some good guesses. We can add parts to it once we know what we need. Story 22, coding. Watching tutorial O. This is easy. Writing code. Where is the missing semicolon? Where writing a long story. I'm about to finish wrapping up my first ever seriously long-form piece of writing. It's going to about 160K all told. You may think to yourself, that's not too long. I can read a book that length in an afternoon. Or I can knock that out in a month or two, just writing a couple thousand words a day. Or you just tell a story and it all leaps out fully formed. And you'd be wrong. Writing, as enjoyable as it can be for author and audience, is a lot of work you just don't see. Yeah, you see the finished product, but what you don't see are things like drafts, discarded scenes, variant writings, conversations with editors, free writing exercises, and all the just sheer ideas that come up and don't make it. ID estimate I have easily spent more than 1 million words behind the scenes making this project happen. It sounds easy, you have a plot, and you make it happen starting at page 1 and do through to the back cover. A lot of my writing is somewhat out of order, starting from page 1. Is honestly a snooze fest, and sure, I don't want to read the part of the fantasy story that's farm boy baling hay, and nobody really likes that part either unless they're a medievalist, and the book goes full Tolkien about how that works. I have probably deleted 75 of all the words I've ever spawned for the product. Beyond spewing words, there's tone to mind, characters to track, continuity, foreshadowing, building, managing tension, avoiding forcing cliches or stupidity, making imagery, dialogue that's nice to read, and also you can imagine being spoken. And this has to all be managed under a word count that's enough for your reader to get the point without boring them or wearing your fingers to nubs. Want to know how long it's taken me to write this thing? 2 years. I've loved it, but hot. It was way harder than it looks when you just see the finished product and can just think I sat down one day and make it all come to life without complication. Writing a novel-length piece of fiction is tough. I plan to do more, but I no longer have the idea it'll be able to just pump out a piece every couple months like clockwork at a couple thousand words a day. Story 23, marriage. I think many people believe that they will be romantically in love with the person they are marrying. In many ways you do, but most with long, successful marriages will tell you it takes work to make a marriage last a lifetime. That level of commitment is hard to maintain. The rewards are enormous, and you'll never be closer to another human if you're doing it right. My wife and I just celebrated our 40th, and we've known each other for more than 45 years, planning on being together till end. Story 24, making an actual quality meme. Inside jokes are normally easy, and memes for content-specific subs is really easy. But making original content for a wider audience for memes, for example, then it feels almost impossible to make content that will be widely liked. Story 25, diapering a baby. feeding a baby, getting a baby to sleep, looks easy until you have 12 babies in your classroom that all need to be diapered, fed, and rocked to sleep in the next 15 minutes. Story 26, being a server. I worked in many different front-of-the-house positions in restaurants and bars, including GMing and running cocktail programs. Wholly without the bar to protect you from the herd, you're just hanging in the open, trying to get a rhythm that will cover the most ground and give the most service. I've never made it a serving shift without forgetting to enter in an important part of an order. Bartending is all about managing interactions and throughput. Serving is about getting treated like your name is boy and trying to balance the needs of your customers with the amount of them and the throughput of the kitchen that you do not have up to the minute information on. Story 27, online dating. As a girl, I have a wide range of prospects, but it's a lot of work to find someone I actually want to meet, and they'll generally have some good first dates when I do, but then the guy goes MIA. Story 28, retail work. Any customer service-based job sucks, but I think retail tops it. Most McDonald's at least have as good amount of staff for rush hour in my experience, whereas in retail, you still regularly go through the busiest times with nowhere near enough staff. You also have to put up with BS all the time. Lori turns up 4 hours early with a delivery. Tills crash during a busy time. You waste 10 minutes explaining to someone why the deal on last week is not on this week. The weekly deal, etc. What do you mean you want me to keep the tags on? So you want all the alarms in the shops to go on, and for you to have to damage the product to get it off. I'm telling you the button is not working. Here, let me show you me clearly pressing the button marked specific coupon, and it not working. How is it my fault? I'm a history student, not till engineer. No, there's not an override. I cannot scan your points card and give you points after you paid. There is now nothing on the system, and it says next customer, please. The customer is not always right, and people that say that should go work Christmas in retail, then trying saying that many ran over, but there is plenty more edit. I want to clarify this, as many people in comments were unhappy with the McDonald's part. I stand by what I said. It is from the experiences I have had and what many of my friends that have worked there have fed back to me. Ones that have done both said retail was also worse to me. This is my opinion. It may be different in your area or it may not, but this is what it is like in my area. Story 29, any competitive video game. A lot of people think it's easy to make money from esports. I've heard many times they're just playing video games. They shouldn't be making so much money. Well then, try. Story 30, science. There's a huge difference between being a scientist and being a fan of science. Both are important, but they aren't the same. A lot of people take a science class or start following a science-based Facebook, Twitter subreddit and only see the successes. Science is a critical, thought-heavy endeavor that requires equal parts patience, smarts, and luck. As a researcher doing basic science, you're going to have 90 negative data. For every scientific publication you see, there are months or even years of negative data behind it. The stuff that science fans and cheerleaders share on Facebook from pages like I Love Science is distilled from the frustrations and efforts of scientists that probably drink heavily. Story 31, keeping it calm. You mean, at the very sight of keep it calm, I remember everything what's wrong with this world. Life after university graduation. People always say that they can't wait to graduate, but little did they know it's just going to be an uphill battle from there. Story 32, telling the people closest to you that you're not okay and that you need help. You think about it, and you play it out in your head. Then your stupid brain takes the worst possible response outcome that could happen if you reached out and puts it front and center on repeat. Any legitimate reaction or discussion is then hidden behind the thought of being ridiculed for weakness, mockingly point out your flaws, minimizing the situation, etc. So then you hide it, you fake it, and just cruise through the day on autopilot until a week or two passes by and you consider it again. You repeat the cycle, continuously beating yourself up in your own head. If you're strong enough, you deal with it for years, decades. Even if you're not, it starts to manifest into the real world and starts to affect how you behave and how you interact with the world and others. Maybe you start to isolate yourself, fearing that the next conversation you have, you might slip and say something that will let the cat out of the bag. You may even become hostile or domineering to people because that level of interaction is the easiest kind to get. Or maybe it's just fun. Or in the worst case, you turn to different substances to just make it go away for a while. You go through these motions over and over and over and over again, but you just end up back at the beginning, thinking about how all the friends you went to school with are now married with kids and are buying their first homes, or now really finding their rhythm with their careers and are starting to climb the ladders in their respective fields. Maybe both. While you sit here alone on Reddit, putting thoughts that you've had for months in a text, kind of hoping that it gets buried, all because you couldn't find a way to say, I don't know what I'm doing and I need help. Story 33, gardening. It isn't just water it and you're good, it's constant attention, care and maintenance. It's really a lot of work if you have a decent-sized garden, but IMO well worth it once you're eating what you grew. Edit. Sometimes I can't figure out formatting. Story 34, letting go. No, you want to switch it off? You want to stop it when you want to stop craving for it. You want to stop missing it. You'll always get yourself almost back to it because you've made a habit to do it so many times daily that your brain hardly ever registers when you're consciously with it. I'm sure you guys understand. It could be drugs. It could be a toxic relationship. It could be a hobby that you just can't see yourself not ever stop practicing because of how much joy it brings to you, like gaming or handicrafts, or even your very job. But you must stop it because of other, more important and more immediate reasons. It hardly matters what is it about. And yet switching it off of your life will always be hard. If you must let it go against all odds, against your own wishes, then be strong. You'll probably never be prepared for it, no matter how much you steel yourself, but you can hang on. Story 35, self-publishing a book. Okay, it's easy to just toss some words on a page, upload it to Amazon, get it published, but actually getting people to buy your book once it's out there is insanely hard. It doesn't matter how good your book is. Nobody knows who you are, so there's no reason for them to click buy on your book. You need to do everything you can to promote it yourself, which can include paying out of your own pocket for ads that may or may not help. Source I self-publish a novel, stumbled at the promoted step, and had dismal sales. Now, I have a sequel written and awaiting beta readers. I'm going to need to try the whole promote myself thing again and hope I have better luck. Story 36, being a good dad, is tough. I have an 18-month-old daughter, and my wife is expecting. I get up for work, and 12 hours later I'm back at home, and almost as soon as I walk through the door, I'm on dad duty, trying to entertain my daughter, give my wife some time to relax, sort out dinner, clean the house. All these things need to be done, and time to do them doesn't exist. Then there's Tim to exercise, which I haven't spent quality time with the wife. And then hobbies, I'm a gamer. It's a thankless job at time, but man, if my daughter's hugs don't just melt me every time. The real heroes are the single parents and those with kids with disabilities. You have strength beyond comprehension. Story 37, rehab and sobriety. I always thought it'd be easy, but the first week I went in for alcoholism and I couldn't bathe myself. I was so sick those first few days. The next 7 weeks were basically training myself in self-control and how to accept my addiction. In 1 year and 7 months clean, and out of the 20 people I met in the program, 10 relapsed, and 2 of the relapses were fatal overdoses. Story 38, being a kid. You can't choose what to eat. You can't just find night shift work if you aren't a morning person. You can't relax after school because you go home with stacks of homework every day. You have peers that you're forced to be around every day. You're always under supervision, and nobody takes you seriously. Don't get me wrong, it's full of fun times and I still miss it. But we take adult life for granted sometimes. Story 39, sheep shearing. They hate you. They weigh 100 to 200 pounds. Unwashed wool is kind of nasty, greasy from lanolin, has burrs in it, dirt. Often some even the best conditions. They are bumpy. The shears will cut them if you up. You'll feel very bad if you up. Your back will feel very bad even if you don't up. The YouTube videos never do it justice. Story 40, those cool construction and home decoration videos on YouTube. They make it look so easy and even, but these workers literally do it for a living. I can't even fold paper exactly in half on the first try. Story 41, riding horses like more than just a trail ride. People who have been doing it for a long time make it look so effortless. But it's such a workout. Also, you have to be strong and unmoving with half your body parts, but loose and fluidly moving with the other half of them. Story 42, saving money when you are poor. It sucks to work your off for a month, to only be 50 to 100 bucks richer at the end of that month, and then see 4 to 6 months of savings go away when your car breaks down. Story 43, waiting tables. I know you think anyone could do that job, but it's seriously more difficult than anyone could imagine to do it well. Career waiters could very easily work for the CIA. They have an uncanny ability to read people and an almost psychic ability to anticipate requests. When it's done poorly, it's obvious. But a good waiter knows what you were going to ask for, and they hand it to you before you've thought to ask. If waiters work for wages instead of tips, you'd be paying the good ones close to $75K a year to put up with your bullshit. Story 44, making friends as an adult, not in school. People today don't say hello. They no-show to invites, and generally seem to have no interest in building friendships. Try moving and making new friends, especially if you don't have kids. It is ridiculously hard. Story 45, adulting. You're supposed to know how to take care of a full-grown adult yourself, a house or apartment, maybe a pet, your plants, and cook your own food, clean after yourself, not be late to work, make your own medical appointments by phone gasp, be responsible, don't spend too much, and if you have the time after all of this, keep friendships alive. All of this after an 18-year-old trial you didn't ask for, but now has to start paying for the real thing. Truth is adults are still teenagers bullshitting confidence through life. Story 46, housekeeping. You think that shit's easy. Far from it. After I housekept for a while, I made sure to tip extra every time I stay at a hotel. I cried so many times working that job. The place I was at expected you to finish a room within 1,520 minutes, a room with 2 full beds, a full bathroom. And they expect you to detail everything. Imagine doing 30 of those nonstop every day. Of course, no one did. Everyone half-assed, which is also why I rarely go to hotels now that I know the truth of how housekeepers treat them when they need to make their quota of rooms for the day. Gross, Ella. Some never changed the sheets. I remember crying because I worked a day when the NorCal fires were super heavy. They didn't supply us with masks, and it was a code red air polluted day. We were expected to work, and we had so many rooms to do because the firefighters were staying in them. Man, those firefighters, though, they trashed the out of those rooms and rarely tipped. Some did, but wow. I had never felt like the lowest of the low as I did as a housekeeper. People really treat you differently. Lots of people assumed I would steal, too. I had come into rooms, and people would hide their bags and such, or just treat me like I was guilty just for being in the room. Also, it's awkward as to be in someone's room making their beds and have the person walk into their room while I'm in there. Hey, not stealing. Seriously, just making your bed, I promise. They still always looked at me strange no matter what. El Mayo, housekeeping man. That is no joke. Tip your housekeepers, please. Many are working their assess off more than a lot of men. Wage jobs and make almost nothing and get treating like nothing. I respect them now immensely. Finding words that rhyme for your thread title. Story 47, holy, I just spent 30 minutes trying to close my blind before giving up and jumping on Reddit. There's these 3 strings, and one works the left side, one works the right side, and a third one that I swear is just there to me off. Who designed blinds this way? Any direction you pull, any combination of strings, it's a complete nightmare. Story 48, recovering from a public gaffe to the British media about no case for going to war with Iraq. Also, getting a builder to fix an issue with a garden wall they constructed for you. Story 49, finding a server in CSGO that isn't filled with racist megateens and young men. My mom would have slapped the out of me if I talked that way, and she never spanked me as a child. Story 50, telling the guy I like, who I've been talking to online consistently for almost exactly a year, that I like him should be like, hey, we know each other's entire life stories. So in case you haven't noticed, I really like you. In reality, it's like Panic's BC cannot flirt also, printing stuff. But printers smell fear and will jam just to spite you. Story 51, sitting on a back porch talking about how your new mobile app is going to make you rich versus actually writing and deploying that mobile app. World of difference. Story 52, being a chef. A great many students starting out in the school I'm about to graduate from likely think that you can take your sweet time in this field. You can't. Everything must be prepped before service starts. At the height of a dinner rush, everyone is going batshit crazy, running around, making orders, and food is flying out the window. This lasts for hours on a daily basis. It's a sweaty, thankless, brutal career. I wish those students and other aspiring chefs the best. Story 53, kayaking. You'd think those would just glide across the water effortlessly, but it takes effort. You have to remember that when you get tired out, you still have to paddle your back to the shore launch point. Also, the water stops on the paddle never work, and you just get cold water running into your armpit. Story 54, coding. Most people seem to think things are really easy and fast, but in reality, it can be a week just to figure out things like databases. I hear a lot of easy changes requested to be done as services at work. NOP, rethinking and recoding an entire core functionality isn't exactly easy. No matter if it's just a button, it is a lot of things. Story 55, interpreting a song in ASL. People think that if you follow those shitty videos made by awkward college students, or look up each word in ASL and string it together in English grammar, that's it. Nope. Not only do you enter a socio-political battlefield when you talk about interpreting music, you have to completely reinvent the song. No 2 interpretations are ever the same because you are interpreting the concept, not the vocabulary. When you see an interpreter at a concert, odds are they've been rehearsing with the band for more than a month if they're any good. Music interpreting is a very specialized kind of interpreting. It takes a lot of work. And after all is said and done, only about 10 of the deaf community really enjoys it. Story 56, wrestling, any type of fighting or grappling. The amount of guys out there who think that they can kick peoples with instinct are sorely mistaken. I was a high-level D1 wrestler at the 2nd lowest college weight class, and I still get people who are extraordinarily surprised when they get drunk, challenge me to a wrestling match, and it does not go the way they think it will. Like you don't challenge a pro golfer to 18 holes and expect to beat them if you've only ever golfed for fun a couple of times, but somehow that doesn't translate. Story 57. Duolingo's language learning has done this to language learning in general. Don't get me wrong, I think Duolingo is great, and everyone should try it out. That said, doing a language tree on Duolingo makes it seem like you've mastered a language, at least in your head. You can write sentences and read pretty much any intermediate advanced text in the given language. Actually applying a language, though, is one of the most excruciating, time-consuming things in Duolingo, and finishing a tree online is not the same as applying it. Source Learning German on Duolingo. Story 58. Making any kind of physical object. Oh, just make this shape out of clay, fingerprints, and surface inconsistencies everywhere. Oh, just paint it. Brush strokes are visible. Paint's having bonding issues with the material you're trying to paint. Oh, just attach thing to thing, but you got to find the right glue first. And if it isn't super quick, drawing, find a way to clamp them together, and watch out for squeeze out. As a person who makes things as a hobby, using a wide array of mediums and techniques, it's never, ever as simple as it seems in your head. There are always little steps missing when you have the big picture, and little skills you lack when applying a new technique. Of course, you get better with practice, but when you aren't working in a consistent material process, you are constantly in a state of practicing new skills, tools, and materials. Story 59. My current job. Work at a pharmacy technician and then go delivery medicines. No one told me that 34 THS of the patients speak Arabic, and I cannot understand them. Story 60. Self-care. For some reason, I don't know why, but when people talk about it, it sounds so simple. Then doing it is like could include changing habits that have been a part of your life for a very, very long time. Story 61. Learning to play the piano at age 51. Having never played before, working out how the dots on the page relate to the keys is really hard. And that's just in C major. Forget all the others. I'm struggling. Story 62. This is the post to finally make me unsub. Crazy upvotes because they asked what looks easy but is actually hard for the millionth time. But some extra dumb in. So stupid. Story 63. Singing. No joke. Singing like you got to keep a good posture and you've got to keep your hands to your sides. Other thing is that when you're trying to do solos, if it's just so, I'm going to guess that other people have to deal with this, your voice cracks. I'm sorry, but this is true for me. Story 64. Drawing. Some people make it look easy, but it isn't as easy as it takes a lot of practice just to get good, and even that is not getting to the advanced stuff. Story 65. Teaching preschool or kindergarten. Preschool and kindergarten teachers are saints and the most professionally proficient of all teachers, IMO. It is an extremely difficult and in some ways dangerous job. Story 66. Renovating an old house. I am now 2 years into an 8-week project. I watched a YouTube video recently about the mites and how to manage the problem. It was so fascinating watching the bees returning to the hive and walk through a gauntlet of bees that inspect the incoming bees from mites. They remove the mites that latch onto the bees when they are in the field. Once a mite is removed from a bee, the inspector bee rips the limbs and sometimes head from the mite's body. They toss the mite down in a hive so that they fall to the bottom of the hive, dead or alive, without the ability to move. So, I'm just interested in bees, but have little knowledge or experience. Story 67. Glass blowing. Recently took a class with my mom, and not only is the big stuff like walking around with a wad of scorching hot glass goo on the end of a big metal rod difficult, but the small stuff like rolling the molten glass in color and shaping and sculpting it and blowing it and heating it and reheating it and reheating it is too. Story 68. In the shower. Making an apology. People say sorry all the time like it's nothing, but when you have to admit your fault, mistakes, or whatever you up, and you have to apologize to the one who was at receiving end, it's just too hard. Story 69. Riding a horse. It's in general supposed to look like you're not doing anything, but actually you're using every muscle in your body for different stuff simultaneously, and your body is in an unnatural position while doing so. Some muscles are being used for balance, dome, giving aids and cues to the horse, etc. It actually takes years to learn to do it in a way that you make it look easy and like you're not doing anything. Story 70. Making decorated sugar cookies. They show these quick tutorials all over Facebook, but the reality is hours of baking. Making the icing, decorating, waiting hours for them to dry, so you can add in new layers, more waiting for dry time. One order can easily take me 3 days from start to finish. Story 71. Golf. Golf is hard. Looks easy as all when you're watching on TV, seeing some fat guy roll a white round ball into a hole. No, the hole is 400 yards away, and you need to get in there in 4 swings. One trip to Top Golf will be humbling, as for 99 of y'all, golf is hard. Having a good posture. Story 72. Getting FedEx to accept liability for a package they delivered to an incorrect address and didn't get a signature, just a picture of the package sitting on the wrong porch. Story 73, surgery. Always looks easy when you see a good surgeon, but when an inexperienced one tries, they understand the practice that went into the technique. Story 74, insurance. You go online, provide your information, and a quote is provided in seconds. Truth is, what property form are they using? Is there a liability deductible? Is it per occurrence or per claim? What version of additional insured endorsement do they provide? Is there a charge? Most people click a few buttons or tell their insurance agent as little as possible and think that every insurance is the same. It isn't. When I ask a person what they think a good insurance policy is, the resounding answer is cheap. The only time I talk to people interested in the actual coverage are people who are unfortunate enough to think that insurance is easy peasy lemon squeezy, and they got burned by some sneaky exclusion. Millennials don't own much yet, but that's going to change in the next 20 years. I don't know how to get these kids to understand that you can't trust a frickin' lizard or some price gun to actually do their jobs. Unlike going to a dentist or a lawyer, consultation with an insurance professional is always free. If you own anything at all, if you have people you love and want to take care of, then talk to a professional at the very least.